Coming up today, the South Korean government calls North Korea's latest email hack attack a grave provocation. It emerges that almost 100 officials and journalists were targeted. The victims of Oxy's toxic humidifier sterilizers have rejected the company's compensation plan. They say Oxy is attempting to sweep the scandal under the rug ahead of a parliamentary hearing. Plus, Korea remains in the grip of an intense heat wave. The country is under a so-called heat dome that acts like a lid on built-up hot air. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello to our viewers around the world. It's 6 a.m. on Tuesday, August 2nd here in Seoul. Thank you ever so much for joining us this morning. I'm Mark Broom. We are going to start with the latest hack attack by North Korea, and prosecutors here in South Korea have accused Pyongyang of hacking into the email accounts of scores of South Korean government officials. They say the hackers set up pages emulating well-known websites to steal their passwords. The cyber attack was orchestrated by Pyongyang's operatives based in China. Connie Kim starts us off.
An email has been sent from what appears to be an online portal website. Once the user clicks on the attached file, it requests the user to change his or her email password, and when they do so, the information is promptly sent to hackers. South Korean prosecutors said Monday this is one of the phishing websites North Korea set up to target 90 officials from the Foreign Affairs, Defense, and Unification ministries in the first 6 months this year. Prosecutors say the hackers stole more than 50 email passwords and are looking into whether any state secrets or other critical data was obtained through the hacks. The IP addresses used by the hackers trace back to Seoul in China's northeast. The prosecution says the hackers are believed to be the same group that hacked into Korea Hydro and Nuclear Power Corporation in 2014, stealing internal data that included plant blueprints and the personal information of employees. The hack attack was deemed by a Unification Ministry official a grave provocation threatening national security, calling on the North to immediately halt such actions. The official added that one business email account from the ministry has also been hacked, but no official document is known to have gone into the hands of the hacking agent. Another government official dismissed concerns of official document leaks, saying business email hackings does not necessarily mean access to official documents. So far, there have not been any confirmed cases of ministry internet hackings. The prosecution has requested users to monitor login records and change passwords frequently to further deter additional hacking attempts. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Now, South Korea's ruling and opposition parties want to revise certain clauses within an anti-graft law that was ruled constitutional last week. Some lawmakers fear the changes could have a negative impact on already sluggish consumption. Ji Myung-gil has more.
The ruling Saenuri Party and the main opposition Minjoo Party of Korea are calling for revisions to the so-called Kim Young-nan law, which was ruled constitutional last week. Under the new law, civil servants, journalists, and private school faculty are barred from receiving individual gifts of goods or services worth more than $900 each, or a combined $2,700 a year. The two parties say the law should exclude agriculture, fisheries, and livestock products, as the price limits could dent consumption and generally have a negative impact on the country's provincial economy.
We asked the government to prepare for the implementation of the Kim Young-nan law. We also asked the government to amend the ordinance to help businesses in the agriculture, fisheries and livestock sector.
If there are going to be losses among the small and medium-sized businesses in the agriculture and fisheries sectors, then the government should consider revising the ordinance.
In addition, Minjoo Party floor leader Woo Sang-ho specifically called to change the limits on the value of meals that can be accepted from $27 to $45, and to raise the value of special occasion gifts or cash from $45 to $90. However, the minor opposition People's Party called for the law to be implemented as is, saying that revisions can be made in the future.
Since the Constitutional Court upheld the anti-graft law, it should first be implemented as planned. After it goes into effect, we can make revisions where necessary. There shouldn't be movements to oppose the law.
The left-leaning opposition Justice Party echoed the view. The law is scheduled to take effect on September 28th. Kim Young-git, Arirang News.
Now, the Korean victims of oxyrekit benki's toxic humidifier disinfectants have rejected the British-based company's compensation plan. They say the compensation is merely an attempt to draw a line under the scandal before it goes to a parliamentary hearing next month. Kim Hae-sung with the details.
With its final compensation plan announced on Sunday, oxyrekit benki's started taking compensation applications from Korean victims who were affected by the company's toxic humidifier disinfectant products on Monday. The British-based firm said it will provide up to $315,000 of compensation to families of adults listed as first-level and second-level victims by Korean health authorities. As for infants and children under 15 who died or were seriously affected, the company will cover around $900,000. The Korean government classified victims into 4 levels, with the first and second levels corresponding to victims who were seriously or fatally injured by direct exposure to toxic humidifier disinfectants, while levels 3 and 4 refer to victims who were diagnosed with skin or breathing conditions. Oxy also offered an additional $45,000 to every household with more than 2 first or second level victims. However, a major advocacy group representing a vast number of victims rejected the plan, saying that Oxy discriminates against third and fourth level victims, adding that this is rather a move by the firm to end the case before it goes through a parliamentary hearing scheduled for next month.
They never gave us details. How can they not compensate level 3 and 4 victims? Are we less of a victim then?
Oxy's apology is basically a show of crocodile's tears. They're just trying to avoid the parliamentary hearing.
In addition, some legal experts say the compensation amount is not enough.
Given Oxy's deliberate intent, manipulation of data, and lack of sincere apology, the compensation amount is too small. Had the case happened in Britain, Oxy would have had to pay much more. According to Anglo-American damage compensation laws, victims can get several times more than the actual amount deemed as corresponding to the damage done to a person.
A compensation plan is out, but it looks like the Oxy scandal is yet to dissipate anytime soon, as victims in Korea call for a thorough investigation and compensation that actually reflect the pain they have suffered. Kim Hae-sung, Arirang News.
Now, smartphones everywhere have been blaring as heatwave warnings are issued time and time again here in Korea this summer. It's also very hot and sticky at night, with Seoul experiencing twice the number of tropical nights this year compared to last. For more on what's behind the extreme temperatures, Ian Shin reports.
The central part of the country, including the capital of Seoul and the coasts, have been suffering under a heat wave almost like no other. According to the Korea Meteorological Administration on Monday, Korea has already had 4 more days with heat wave warnings this year than last. The highs in the east-central city of Pohang and the southern cities of Daegu and Changwon in July all reached over 36 degrees Celsius. Experts say the root cause of the sweltering days and tropical nights is a phenomenon known as a heat dome. A heat dome happens when an anticyclone or highly compressed air blocks air circulation and causes hot air to sink. As the sinking air gets compressed even further, it creates a dome of heat. This heat dome is driven by the expansion of North Pacific High, a kind of anticyclone containing highly compressed air. The air trapped in the dome affects the entire nation, creating the scorching conditions Korea is seeing now, even though the country is in the middle of the monsoon season.
As the blistering hot weather continues through August, bringing more tropical nights, the nation can expect to see some record high temperatures this year.
Under the effects of the heat dome, experts also project that the country could see a record number of tropical nights since the year 2000. Many more heat wave warnings are expected throughout the rest of the season, so area residents, especially children and the elderly, are advised to take preventive measures to avoid heat stroke and other heat-related illnesses. 이은신, Arirang News.
The Korean government is stripping back on regulations regarding the installation of electric charging points inside regular gas stations. This is all part of a long-term initiative to encourage people to buy more environmentally friendly vehicles. Kim Jong-soo with the details.
The Korean Ministry of Public Safety and Security has announced that it will lift restrictions regarding the installation of electric car charging stations in Korea's regular gas stations. The regulation changes will be effective starting Tuesday. Until today, gas stations were required to be equipped with special explosion-proof devices in order to prevent sparks and electric fires before being deemed fit to facilitate electrical charging stations. However, such devices were too costly to implement, making many gas stations unwilling to accommodate charging stations for electric cars. Under the new regulation, explosion-proof devices are no longer required as long as the new electric charging stations are placed 6 meters away from the gas pumps. The charging stations will also have to be equipped with a kill switch to cut off power immediately. The changes will also lessen qualification requirements for the staff working at gas stations on night shifts. Until now, employees had to have a minimum 1-year work experience before handling explosive materials such as fuel. But now, part-time workers with minimal experience will also be qualified for the job as well, as long as they receive the required training provided by the Korea Fire Safety Association. Compared to countries such as China and the United States, electric cars have not caught on in Korea, partly because of the lack of sufficient charging stations. There are only 337 stations in the country, with only 57 in Seoul. To tackle this shortcoming, the government has plans to increase the total number to 600 stations nationwide by 2017. Meanwhile, the global market for electric cars has increased by 100 times during the past 5 years, a stark contrast to the situation in Korea. In Korea, there are only about 6,000 electric vehicles on the road, or 0.03% of all vehicles in the country. But industry officials expect that the recent regulatory change will encourage more people to drive electric. Kim Jong-soo, Arirang News.
Now, Korea's TEIN Cooperation Center held a unique cyber performance with musicians from Vietnam and Hong Kong on Monday. The event was aimed at boosting efforts to connect various countries through cultural contents. Kim Mok-yeon has more.
With support from South Korean radio station Kugak FM and the Department of Traditional Korean Music at Seoul National University, TEIN Cooperation Center on Monday held a joint cyber cultural performance with Hong Kong and Vietnam.
The performance helps us narrow the gap between our neighbors and boost cooperation in order to promote more cultural exchanges.
The performance was held during the 42nd Asia-Pacific Information Network meeting at the University of Hong Kong. The collaboration introduced Korean traditional instruments such as the kayagum, changgu, and hegum, Hong Kong's guzheng or the Chinese zither, and Vietnam's string instrument dan bao. Musicians formed an ensemble through the cyber network and even enjoyed some impromptu performances together.
If we continue to use the power of technology in our performances, I think various types of musical collaborations will be possible. This will also help to infinitely improve the quality of music worldwide.
With the goal of connecting Asia and Europe by sharing cultural contents through a so-called ICT Silk Road, the TEIN network is seen as a base for international joint research projects on climate change, remote medical services, and remote cultural performances. Kim Mok-yeon, Arirang News.
Well, that's all we have for now on this Tuesday morning here in Seoul. I'm Mark Broom. Thank you as always for tuning in. We'll be back throughout the day with more newscasts. Our next scheduled bulletin is coming up at 10 a.m. Korea time. So until then, goodbye.